All right. So our book study, Immutable Laws of Leadership, John Maxwell. To say that I am obsessed with John Maxwell is putting it lightly. I have really become a huge fan of it. Before we start, hopefully other people will be able to watch this first one and then join us in the coming weeks with our study. But as you guys know, I have divided them up into 3 chapters at a time for the next 7 weeks. So it's almost the entire summer up until the 2nd week of August. So that's good. It's saying my internet's unstable. Hopefully it'll be okay. I wanted you guys to dialogue with me for just 1 second before we start talking about the book, about some of the expectations that you have of this group. That some of the things that I am hopeful for is that I hope that we will all develop a relationship with each other, even though I know we're not sitting with each other. I wish we were sitting at the table together. That would be so awesome. But even though we're not doing that, I hope that we can establish a relationship together and it be one of respect, where our opinion and the things that we share and talk about are respected, even if we don't agree, because we don't have to agree. We, like each other, we don't have to agree. But where we can agree to disagree if that's the case. I hope that during this time we can begin to trust each other with some of our dreams and goals and really some of our fears and insecurities too, because that plays into it as well. I want this to be a safe place for us to be able to share. And with that being said, I want it to be a place where what we say stays here in regards to the personal stuff. Obviously, the leadership stuff and the things that we learn from the book and learn from each other obviously should be shared and should continue on. But I really hope that the things that we share will be something that we can trust each other with the personal things that we bring up. That's kind of what I'm hopeful for. The time. Ooh, my husband turned the light on. The time that we have, I hope that we will respect each other's time. I would love to keep this under an hour. I feel like we can keep this under an hour, hopefully 30, 45 minutes at the max. If we go longer, obviously that's okay. But I would love for it at the max to stay under an hour, just to respect everybody's time. Does anybody have anything they would like to see as a part of this group? Did I kind of include everything? If any of you would like, and those of you that are watching this recorded later on, if you guys would like to facilitate 1 week, I would love for you to facilitate this. I'll start it. Private message. Fine with me. I would love for one of you guys to facilitate. Hey, Angie. I've also created that group on Facebook, and I'll add anybody that has not been added. If you have friends that are wanting to be a part of the group as well, let me know and I'll add them to the group. Instead of just one week, Hey, Angie. Hey, Angie.
I'm having a real hard time hearing you. There's a lot of background noise.
No, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. It's not me. My children's are kind of.
You're cutting out.
Yeah. We may just need to mute and unmute as we want to say something.
It's my internet. Let me see if I can get on my phone, and maybe that'll help with the sound. Is the sound better now? Is that better, the sound? Thumbs up if it is. Okay. I don't know what I did. I just did this. I guess if you guys, I'll start, and then as I start asking questions, or you guys have stuff that you want to talk about, maybe unmute yourself and talk. Will that work? Okay. We'll do that. Like I said, this apartment, the internet's not fantastic, so I'll do my best to make sure I don't forget. Okay. So the first chapter, Law of the Lid, was they talked about the law of the lid, and that you're only as effective as your leadership abilities, and that kind of talking about that if your leadership abilities are at an 8, then you really will only be able to lead at a 7. And do you guys remember that part? I was a little bit confused at first, but then I started to understand. I loved the story of the McDonald brothers and how they had a really fantastic idea, but they did not know how to actually facilitate that up. What were they talking about? I'm going to ask you guys a question that I had. I don't know if you guys have been ever put in a leadership position, and you may or may not have wanted to be in it. And I've had that happen to me a lot of times, and I don't know that I'm necessarily fantastic at it. But does anybody have an example of a time in their life when they were stuck in your leadership ability, and someone or something or a piece of knowledge or something you read really boosted you in your leadership abilities? I have examples, but I can show you. Oh, there's my dirty laundry. Or clean laundry. Sorry, clean, not dirty. Clean. Do you guys have an example of a time that either somebody or something in your life encouraged you or spurred you to change or to boost your leadership? I will tell you what I wrote down, because I kind of jotted down some questions and then some answers too. Being stuck at Senior Ruby for 18 months was, I feel like being stuck that way has been part of my leadership. It's been my leadership. And so, hi, Chad. So I think that has been the reason why I'm stuck, is because I got to that point where I thought, oh, Senior Ruby, I'm set. This is an easy transition. It was easy to jump from all of these from Ruby to Senior Ruby. Now going from Senior Ruby to Emerald will be no big deal. And when in fact, it's a huge deal. You have to double your points. 750 to 1500 is a ginormous jump. I think the biggest jump that you end up making in our career that we're working on. And I feel like this book, I feel like me making some decisions in my personal life, my husband being very encouraging for me to do this job full time, has made me be very intentional with some of my leadership. I've realized that I can't coast on other people's abilities. I can't coast in my leadership, that I have to be intentional and work on my leadership daily. So I will tell you, Jason encouraging me to quit teaching and doing this full time in another teaching capacity has made me change some of the things that I'm doing leadership wise. Does that make sense? Does anybody else have another example for y'all in your own life?
Did I unmute properly? Okay, cool. I know, just kind of talking about being stuck at Senior Ruby, I actually was lucky enough to hit Emerald a few years back, but the points have not stayed at all. And I think that's one of those laws of attrition in this business. Actually, did listen to a call from Rhonda Shaw this morning that's a very real part of this business. And I think going through that, yet maintaining a team and trying to lead them through those moments where you're not where you really want to be or where you have been, really pushes you a lot to stay positive, even through those lulls when points have dropped, 50%. That's a huge deal. So I know that's definitely pushed me. So I'm really excited about this study. This thing's going to be really good.
Yeah. I think too, October with the back office change, and I think that has, for lack of a better word, completely pushed all of us to rethink the way that we're doing this, that getting where you're going to get is going to take the work that you put into it. It's not that you jumping from, Senior Ruby suddenly to 2 months later, you're Diamond. It's just, you're going to have to put in those hours and put in that work. And I think that in October really hit a lot of us hard with that, and not in a bad way. I mean, I think everything, you can always find a silver lining to everything. And I think that that's a good thing, and we're growing, and that's always a positive thing. So Anybody else have anything on that? Wanted to share. How do you think that you could help your team or yourself improve to rate? He talked about raising that lid. Do you guys remember that part where he talked about raising your lid of your leadership ability? How do you think that what kinds of things do you think you need to do to raise your lid or to raise the people on your team's lid? I thought his, when he talked about influence was huge. That the quote that he said, the higher you want to climb, the more you need leadership. I'm turning my head, sorry. The greater the impact you want to make, the greater your influence needs to be. And so it's not even what you know, and it's not even how you know it or how you're leading. It's how you're influencing others, which I think that's a very big key. It's a big key to thinking about all of this and thinking about leading in a very different way, that it's not your position. It's not, and they talk about that in the next few chapters, but it's not your position, that it's your influence. How do you influence other people? And then he said, whatever you will accomplish is restricted by your ability to lead others. And that hit my heart more than probably a lot of the other things, because I think where I'm at is my abilities as a leader, it's time to stretch in a very big way. And it's time to change that in a very big way, because I want to influence the people that I'm in. I want to be the influencer in a positive way and to help others grow. And that's not always easy, I don't think. Then he had some charts, and I kind of breezed over the charts. It's math, and that's not my thing. I like words better. Did y'all take the little assessment thing there? If you're listening to it, you may not have been able to. I'll try to take a little snapshot of the at the end of the book. It talks about applying, or at the end of the chapter, he talks about applying what the law. So this is the law of the lid. So he talks about applying this to our life, and he wanted you to list some major goals. And then the second one was to complete the leadership evaluation in Appendix A. And it's at the back of the book. It gets you a basic idea of your leadership ability. So for those of you that are listening to the YouTube audio, I'll take a picture of that and be sure to post that on our group page so you can take a look at that and be sure to take that assessment. And then he also asks you to ask other people to rate your leadership. And I have not done that. I'll be really honest with you. I haven't done that yet. But I do think it would be important. And I think that that's something maybe next week, let's challenge ourselves to ask other people. And like I said, if you have the audio, I'll type this out. But it says, ask others to rate your leadership. Talk to whoever that you know that you feel like you respect their leadership, and ask them, say, rate you on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being the highest, in each of the following areas: your people skills, your planning and strategic thinking, your vision, and your results. So that's our challenge for next week. So next week when we come back, I want you guys to report back about what other people said, and examples of your spouses, your boss, people that are at your level. So some of your teammates, some of your sideline people that you're with, some people that you have in your full-time job, whatever it is, people you trust at church, those kinds of things. But ask them to rate you on those 4 things. And like I said, I'll type that up in our group so we don't forget it. Do you have anything else that they would like to share or that they found especially helpful in the first chapter? I think the first chapter is sort of the preview. All the other ones are getting much better. That's my opinion. Because once I got to chapter 2 and 3, I was like, oh, this is good. Because chapter 1, I was kind of like, okay, the lid, got it. McDonald's, got it. I don't like McDonald's, so I didn't like talking about it. Okay, so chapter 2 is the law of influence. And the focus of this was that the true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And he said that a lot. You guys remember reading that a lot or listening to it. He says that a lot. Nothing more, nothing less. And to me, that made it a little bit simplified. But I think that that's powerful too in simplicity, some of the things that you can think about when it comes to leadership. His main point was that I wrote down that true leadership cannot be awarded, appointed, or assigned. It comes only from influence. There's that influence thing again. And that cannot be mandated. It must be earned. The only thing a title can buy is a little time, either to increase your level of influence with others or to undermine it. So that was a big thing. And he said at that very first page, if you guys remember hearing or seeing this, he said that if you don't have influence, you will never be able to lead others. And so what kind of influence you have, that's huge. He also talked about, before we get into that, before this book or before this chapter, can anybody give me a definition of what you thought leadership was prior to this? Because this is changing what I think leadership is. What was your definition of leadership before this book? Mine was the people in charge. As simple as that. My definition was the people in charge. Does anybody have a different definition of what they thought the leaders were before this? Is that basically it? Do you guys have anybody in your life that you look up to as from what we are noticing as a true leader? I know I do. I wrote down a really good friend of mine that I feel like is a really fantastic leader. I challenge you this week to continue to think about people that you feel like are personifying these leadership qualities, because I think that's important. He talks about what leadership is not, which I thought was great. That he said, I said my definition before was that somebody was the leader. A leader was the person that was in charge, and that he said titles don't have much value when it comes to leading. So you can have a title, but if you're not really a great leader, then you're really not the one in charge anyway. And that influence must be earned, that it can't be mandated. You can't force somebody to have that. You can't force somebody to for you to influence them. You can't force that influence on them, I guess would be a good way of saying that. The 5 myths of leadership, he talked about those, which I thought was great. The management myth, that the main difference between the two is that leadership is about influencing people to follow, while management focuses on maintaining systems and processes. So I know a lot of people have asked me, especially with what we're doing, they're like, well, what's the process? What's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we have to do to get started? Well, it's kind of different for everybody. I mean, there's some basics that are the same, but it kind of can be different. And I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that if we're going to manage somebody, then yes, we will continue to give them the same processes and the same systems and the same to-do list. But really, truly, when we're leading somebody, we meet them where they're at, and they may be different. They may need that list, but they also may need that creative freedom to try something different with what they're doing. You know, we all know you post on Facebook, contact people, share with the people that you interact with daily. And there's things that you do, but there's also a creativity to that. And I think that cultivating that in each person and their own unique personalities is really important. The entrepreneur myth, that's another one. And that entrepreneurs are skilled at seeing opportunities and going after them. And to me, I think that that's what a leader does too, but he kind of debunked that a little bit for me. The knowledge myth, that neither IQ nor education necessarily equates to leadership. And I think that's true. I think we all know that. What was the one where he was talking about the farmer that came in? Is that where was that? But do you guys remember that example where he talked about the farmer that was really the guy that was in charge, and when he talked, everybody was silenced and listened? I think that's really great. Claude, was that his name? The farmer Claude. I thought that was great. And then so the knowledge myth, and then the pioneer myth, and that being first isn't always the same as leading. And I think that's kind of huge with our business, because if you think about all these people that we've known that have paved the way and been these pioneers in our business and have, Double Diamond, and they've been the first, Emerald in 6 months and all this stuff. And that we think, well, they were the first to do it, so they must know what they're doing. And that may very well be true. But are they the leaders that we want to eventually be? And maybe yes, and maybe no. It just I think it depends for every person. And so that for me especially was important to remind myself of, that just because they're the first doesn't mean they're necessarily leading the way that we're supposed to be leading. So he said that to be a leader, a person has to not only be out front, but also have people intentionally coming behind him, following his lead and acting on his vision. Being a trendsetter is not the same as being a leader. So I really loved that the person, they're following their lead, but they're acting on the vision that the leader has. The position myth, that it's not the position that makes the leader, it's the leader that makes the position. So regardless of where you're at, you could be silver for 3 years, but guess what? If you are the leader that you're supposed to be, and that I really feel like God is calling you to be, it doesn't matter your position, because you're the leader that you're supposed to be. Did anybody have anything that really stuck out to them about the 5 myths that he talked about? I really liked the next part the best, whenever he talked about what leadership was. It gives us some very tangible things to think about in terms of where we're at in our leadership journey. And I loved Margaret Thatcher's quote, "Being in power is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't." And I love that, especially the lady part. That's so fantastic. That if you have to tell somebody you're a leader, you probably aren't. And I have a funny story. Well, it's not really funny. It's kind of horrible. But when I was teaching, I was the co-curricular team leader. And basically co-curricular, for those of you not in the education world, it's like PE and music and drama and art and all of the extra things that are not tested. Essentially, it's the fun stuff. And we have, just like the rest of the science team and all that, we have a co-cur team. Well, whenever I was pushed into the position reluctantly, because our team lead, when I first began, ended up moving to the high school. And he goes, "I will only move." He told our principal, "I will only move if Angie is our new team lead." And our principal said, "Why Angie?" And he goes, "Because she's Switzerland." So because she's the middle ground of everybody. And I was the drama teacher, but he said to our principal, he said, she's not gonna challenge things overly that shouldn't be challenged. Basically, I'm not gonna make these huge waves and changes and all this, and that she's also gonna try to make sure that everybody gets along. Because if you don't know anything about music people and artists and people that play instruments, and a lot of times coaches, they're very dramatic, and so it's kind of like leading a bunch of the strongest personalities that you can think of in your life. It's like putting them all in one room and making them come to a single consensus. And it's almost 100% of the time impossible. So I reluctantly said, "Okay, fine, I'm Switzerland." So I had to get along. I get along with everybody. And so for the last 7 years, I guess, I've been the team lead. And I will tell you, I don't know that I was a very good leader. I basically maintained my Switzerland mentality. I decided I don't want anybody to be mad because I'm the pleaser of, if any of you are pleasers, I didn't want to upset anybody. And so I just decided, hey, I'm just going to make sure that we all keep the peace. And so that's what I did. I kind of kept the peace, and I just made sure that nobody was overly upset about things. And I will tell you, I don't think that that's the best way for me to have used my leadership abilities. I think I took the easy way out. So that's why it's horrible for me to say, because I don't think I did a very good job at all. Hopefully I'll do better with this. Well, no, I know I will do better. So anyway, back to the leadership. So he talks about all of the things that leadership is, and he gives us 7 of them. I'm going to go through them quickly, but I do want you guys to share at least 1 or 2 of the ones that you felt like stuck out to you. The first one was character, that true leadership always begins with the inner person. Relationships, that he talked about, he immediately started building relationships. And isn't that important? I mean, obviously with what we do, it's so key. Knowledge, what they know. That knowledge alone won't make you a leader, but you sure need to get it eventually to be the kind of leader you're supposed to be. Intuition, that what you feel. Leaders seek to recognize and influence intangibles such as energy, morale, timing, and momentum. And I will tell you, I think I'm not very good at that. I'm not really good with the feels. Sometimes I am, but my mommy intuition is really good, and my leader intuition, I'm working on it. Experience, where they've been. The greater the challenges you faced as a leader in the past, the more likely followers are to give you a chance in the present. Woo, that one hit home for me big time. Past success, what they've done. Nothing speaks to followers like a good track record. And these last 2, I'll tell you what I wrote down. But so that the past success, and then your ability, what you can do, what a leader is capable of. And I think that those 2 right there for us are why you have to get your team and work as hard as you can to make your team an Emerald team, because those are the 2, those are the things that are going to give your team the weight and for lack of a better term, power that you need, because you are an Emerald team. You've technically made it. And your past success proves this. Your current abilities prove that. And that's why I think being an Emerald team has such a heavy influence in what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to open up to you guys. I want you to tell me at least 1 of the ones that spoke out to you. So you have to unmute now.
I know one of the things for me, and I kind of was thinking about it earlier, was knowledge. I know that just over my life experience in college and high school, anytime I ever had to make a speech or speak on something, I never had a problem doing it as long as I was comfortable with the material. If I wasn't familiar enough with the material, I would be basket case. And so I think that's one thing in this business is understanding the compensation plan, the products, some nuances of the back office. Take the time to figure those things out. I think it's very powerful. I've even had a couple of situations with my team where they freaked out because they didn't get an email because some preferred customer upgraded and she didn't get her email and she didn't know what her website is, and woke up to several panicking messages this morning. And I was like, oh, we'll just go here and go and click here. And sometimes I forget that not everyone has that knowledge of the back office or the knowledge of the products. So I think that's one thing that that's one that really stood out to me, and that's why it's important to have that knowledge, is to be able to answer and squelch drama if need be. And the other one I wrote down was character, and for me that's a real big one. I think Angie knows some of the examples that I've worked with is just integrity. Be 100% honest all the time. We are, the double diamond, everybody knows her name. Celeste in this company is no better than the person who just signed up. And I think that's one thing that it's hard for people to wrap their heads around sometimes. I know I personally struggle with an inferiority complex. I really do. Just around all these super powerful jewels. But at the end of the day, we're all the same. We have the exact same opportunities, the exact same tools. So that's kind of what I took away from that list. And what's funny is I'm having to write these things down because I've been listening to it in the car and they frown on writing and driving. So That's my
Yes, we need you around. All right, what's two more? Tell me one thing, y'all.
I didn't get that far in the book.
What do you think? I mean, Kara, Kara is such a leader. She doesn't think she is, but she is such a leader. She has such influence on other people. I think that's one of her gifts. She has this amazing influence on people. You guys don't know her, but I'll just brag on her for a bit. She has this amazing influence on people, and that our friend Mandy, I'm not supposed to call her Mandy, Amanda Lynn, she said something really kind about Kara the other day, that just from the very beginning of when you know her, she seems to find a strength in you that you probably don't even realize you have. And then I think you do a great job of finding the best in people. And really that's part of leadership, that you talk about your character. I would think, Kara, that would be huge for you.
Yeah.
And your intuition, I think that's a strength of yours. I don't know. I'm speaking for you, but I think those are important things. You have always had such great intuition for others and for yourself too, but
Yeah. I feel like, when I was listening, I've been listening to it in the car too. And now the whole section about influence really spoke to me, because I think you're right. I do have a big influence on a lot of people. For good or bad, I've always been able to talk people into doing stuff that they don't necessarily want to do. But I just need to learn how to use that to my benefit, and to other people's benefits too. I mean, that's why I'm in this, because I want to help people. It's not, I don't know, blah. Anyway, I thought I got farther in the book than I did, but I guess I didn't get as far as I thought I got.
That's all right. I think it's hard too. Whenever I did the other book, I listened to it too, and it's hard to figure out where you're at sometimes. So it's all good. All right. Last but not least, do you have one? No. I put you on the spot, didn't I?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't have the book, and I haven't read anything. I just thought I'd listen in and see what I could learn.
I love it. Well, if you pipe in, if you have other little epiphanies, pipe in, because I don't think you have to have read this to know about leadership by any stretch. Okay, so I love the quote at the very end. He says this: "He who thinks he leads but has no followers is only taking a walk." That's so good. And then they talked about, at the end, he had another little application, some of the questions and stuff. And he wanted us to rate ourselves. And I'll type this up again and put it on our little group page. To rate yourself, 1, that it's not a factor in your life or in your leadership. And then 10, meaning that you rely on it continually all the time. Your character, your relationships, your knowledge, your intuition, your experience, your past success, and your ability. So he said to rate those things, those 7 things, from a 1 to a 10. So I'll type those up, and then we could let's plan on chatting that on the group page. That way we can at least kind of look over those things. I think that was really great. What else did I have? I wrote down a couple more things. No, I didn't. And he also asked the question, what are things that you must change to make you more open to improving your leadership? So think about that through the week too. I'll remind myself to type that up too, to ask that question so you guys can kind of marinate on that. But what are some things that you need to change to make you more open to improving your own leadership skills? That's kind of what this is all about anyway, is improving yourself and being willing to improve yourself. I think if you're not willing to improve yourself and you think everything's just fine, you're not going to grow. Okay, I'm going to change my paper. Hold on. Like I said, I took some notes. Okay, so chapter 3, the main thing, little quote that he have is leadership develops daily, not in a day. And he says, becoming a leader is not like investing in the stock market. If your hope is to make a fortune in a day, you're not going to be successful. If you continually invest in your leadership development, letting your assets compound, the inevitable result is growth over time. And so in this, he talked about Ann Schreiber, maybe. I think I might mispronounce this sweet little old lady that worked and worked and worked for years and years, and she was 101 years old when she died. She worked for Social Security Administration and did not ever make more than, when she retired, listen to this. Let's see, she retired at age 51. She was making $3,150. So $3,100 this chick was making for a year. A year. She had, if you guys didn't read this or listen to this, she had, what did it say? Okay, what did it say? I want to say she had a PhD. Hang on. She worked for the IRS too. Sorry, she worked for the IRS, not the Social Security Administration. She gave, it wasn't that she didn't have her PhD. She gave her estate, her whole estate when she died, she gave it to this university, Yeshiva University, and in New York City, gave $22 million to this university. She saved, and she saved, and she saved. And then when she retired, she invested her money in the stock market, and it just compounded, and she stuck with it. She didn't pull it out. She wasn't one of those day traders that was in and out really quickly. I don't know a lot about the stock market, so it's going to make me sound like an idiot if I continue to talk about it. But basically, this third chapter, last chapter, was talking about the law of influence. This chapter is talking about the law of process. She trusted in the process, and she stuck with what was working, and she didn't give up. So she gave $22 million to this university when she died. So I can only imagine the people that she used to work with thinking, what was she doing with that money? The law of process reminds me, are we in this for the long haul, or are we in this for something that is going to be a flash in the pan? I have a friend that I used to teach with, and she was on my team when I first started, and she loved the products. She hated drinking water because we're teachers and we don't get potty breaks. And so she never could go pee-pee, and that was her problem. And she was like, I just can't do this. I just don't have time. I never get to go to the bathroom, so I don't want to drink my water. There's always a will. Where there's a will, there's a way. Because I was a teacher, and I always figured out how to go to the bathroom. But the process, I feel like she never has trusted in the process of one thing. She jumps from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. Because before me, guess what she was a part of? She was a part of Mary Kay. And after me, guess what she was a part of? Jamberry Nails. And I believe she's a part of something else now. That's 4 that I know off the top of my head, network marketing companies that she's been a part of. I'm pretty sure she's been a part of another one, but I could not tell you which one it was. I'm almost 100% positive. And I'm not name dropping to be negative about these network marketing companies. I want you to know, I think they're all fabulous. And I think that if you're providing for your family by selling lipstick, girl, get it. It is not my bag, because I don't even hardly ever wear lipstick. I wouldn't probably even know what color to buy unless it was some ugly color, and I'll tell you that didn't look good. But I can tell you now that jumping from thing to thing is not going to get it done. Having that consistency and staying with this for the long haul is really where it's going to be at. What was it that they said that if you can stick with network marketing for 5 years, is it 5 years, Megan, that they say if it's 5 years, you're going to see, if you'll just stay with it for 5 years, you'll see the rewards. So however long you've been with it, stay with it for the 5, and I think you'll be surprised. And he said that there's, leadership is like investing, it compounds, that there's no day traders when it comes to leadership development. The secret to their success is found in a daily agenda. And we talked about, if you've ever heard anybody talk about DMOs, your daily method of operation, what are the things that you do every single day? And they talk about, he said, priorities, passion, abilities, relationships, attitude, personal disciplines, vision, and influence. See what a person is doing every day, day after day, and you'll know who that person is and what he or she is becoming. That's your DMO. What are the things that you do every single day to improve on your leadership, to build your business, to, whatever it is, whatever your DMO is really a reflection of who you are, which I thought that's telling to me. I need to remind myself of that quite a bit. He talked about the fact that leadership is complicated. It has all these different facets, and he talked about a few things. That leaders are learners. That is the capacity to develop and improve their skills that distinguishes leaders from their followers. So to be able to grow and learn and develop who you are as a person is really the key to who you are as a leader. Self-discipline, perseverance. The goal each day must be to get a little better, to build on previous day's progress. And I like that a lot. I have a little daily organizer, and sometimes I'll not sometimes, but every day I write down the things that I have to do and I mark them off. Well, the ones I don't mark off, I move to the next day. And he talks about that same thing. You're not only catching up from the day before, but you need to build on to that next day's progress or whatever. Okay. Then he moved down to then he talked about events versus the process. It says my internet is unstable. Hopefully it'll come back.
Your connection's erratic, man. You're frozen.
I know. Am I frozen still? Are we back at it? Oh, good. Okay, y'all are moving. Am I moving? Okay, are we good? Okay. Okay. He talked about events versus the process. An event is this flash in the pan thing in your life. It's not a bad thing. But a process that you develop, something that you do all the time, is what is going to develop your leadership abilities. He talked about events versus the process. I will tell you that as an educator and as a theater teacher, I value the process more than the product. So meaning I value the rehearsal process and the learning process of it more than the performance itself, because I feel like the growth and the learning and the stretching and the changing happens during the process of it. So during the rehearsal process, when I'm having those one-on-one acting coaching sessions, when I'm having my musical director teach them a song or whatever it is, those are the moments when those students, those actors are changed. Those are the moments when they change. Yes, the performance will blow your mind. The performance will be the thing that people remember, but the process is where those performances, that's what that comes out of. To me, and I've always been a big advocate of, if the process is sound, if the process is legit, the product will reflect that process. Kara's shaking her head. She's a theater person too. That's kind of my analogy for the process of it. I just feel like as an educator, I think Jason's thumbs upping this too. As an educator, the process of it is so much more important than the product. The fact that you know what we're teaching you is so much more important than the grade that you get on a test. A test is a test. It does not show you everything that you know. And of course, that's why we're huge advocates for no STAR tests. But that's a whole other issue. But I will tell you the process of it, if you trust that process, and I think maybe that's why I've been so patient, because I trust the process. I really trust the process of this whole thing. So then he goes on and talks about the phases of leadership. Do you guys have anything? I'm kind of going fast over this.
Hey, I just had two quick things.
Oh, good.
I'll just touch on that with the process. I was actually talking with a coworker today. He's training for his first marathon, and I used to be a runner and did 4 or 5 marathons. And I was talking about how a few years ago they canceled the marathon here in Dallas, and it just, I think they even did it in New York several years ago when the hurricane hit. But for me, I was just devastated for those runners that had committed 6-7 months to training for this one day, and that one day is gone. But that's where you build your stamina. That's where you're really building yourself as a runner, is during that training. It's not that one day. Who cares? I mean, yes, you want to have a good run and you want it to be a great experience, but it's one day. Your training as an athlete is the 6 months. And so that was really big. The other thing was the little changes in consistency. And I was pinging one of my team members because I started reading this book. And I swear the title has the word consistency in it. I can't remember. But it was talking about how it's the little changes that you make every day. For example, let's say you're not a water drinker and you start drinking a liter of water every day. You're not going to lose 5 pounds in the first 3 days. It's just not going to happen. But if you keep doing that over a year, something may change. And I think in our business, we have to start making those little changes of reaching out to somebody new every day. And it's not going to change our business like that. It's not going to happen, but you have to stay consistent with it, even though you're not getting the instant gratification of the results. So I think that's where the consistency in that process is really valuable. It's hard. It is really hard. Failure is it's key to this business, because the sooner you fail and the more often you fail, the closer you are to that success. So that's all I got.
Megan, it made me think too about some of our team members, Kara, on your team, some of the youngins that you got. I think it's going to make me sound like I'm really old, but I think a younger generation that are starting, the 20-somethings that are starting to do this, that are blowing it up, are working completely opposite from how they are feeling and how what society is telling them. Because I think they're the generation of a quick fix. They want it fast. They want it now, because that's all that they've ever known. If you think about these kids that are in their early 20s that are doing this, they are working in a completely opposite direction of basically how their generation works. They're used to things fast. They are used to the internet working fast. They're used to their cell phones. They've never not known a world without cell phones, and they've never not known a world without internet. And I think knowing that these people that are rising up in their early 20s that are true leaders in our company and in really anything, they're working opposite of what their generation is telling them, because they're having to be patient. They're having to be consistent. They're having to, like you said, see this bigger picture, and they don't do that. Their generation doesn't do that. I think we froze again. Did we freeze again? I'll pause for a second. Yep, there it went again. Okay, I think y'all are back. Are we good? Okay, good. Wouldn't you think so? Do you think that's true, Kara? I think that's true, especially with a couple of your youngins. They want that quick fix, immediate success, and aren't necessarily willing to go through a lot of those failures to make the success happen.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's hard for them because, just like you said, they're used to that instant gratification. So the moment that something doesn't come immediately, they're turned off by it and they're ready to quit. I mean, and I have to constantly tell them, you can't give up. You're not going to be a diamond tomorrow. You have to be silver first. And you have to go through the ranks, and that takes time. And that's hard for these kids that don't know how to put time into it. The only thing they've ever had to put time into was school. Yeah. And that's just because society makes them.
That's a really great point about the school thing. That's a really great point. Okay, so let's move on to the phases that he talks about, the phases of leadership growth. That phase 1 is I don't know what I don't know. That as long as a person doesn't know what he doesn't know, he isn't going to grow. So that was kind of confusing for me. It's like, wait, you don't know what you don't know. But he said that some people don't recognize the importance or the value of leadership, and that others believe that leadership is only for a few, for the people at the top of the corporate ladder. they miss their opportunities when they don't learn to lead. And I think that's kind of where he was at, that you're missing those opportunities when you're not learning to lead and you're not learning to be the good leader that you should be. I think that was a little tricky for me because it was a little bit funky worded, but you don't know what you don't know. And even, Megan was talking about this, like when you're comfortable with something that you're really comfortable talking about it. So get to know the products and get to know why they work the way they work. Go through the back office, learn through your back office. Yes, it stinks sometimes and it can be confusing, but the more often you spend a few moments working on it, the more often you'll get to know what it's about and you'll become comfortable. Like you said, Megan, when you were like, oh, we'll just go here and here, because you had spent time with that. You spent time figuring out where that was. And so you knew how to get to where you were getting. I think knowing the compensation plan for all of us at the very beginning is super confusing. I think now I'm just getting to the point where I'm really comfortable talking about it. And that took me having to lead a session about it with Jen's team. I had to lead a thing about it, a video. And so I had to really work hard to get to know that better, which was super scary. Phase 2 is that that you need to know. I know that I need to know. So you're willing to learn how to lead. So you're recognizing that. So he said at some point in life, many people find themselves placed in leadership position only to look around and discover that no one is following them. When that happens, we realize that we need to learn how to lead. So you know that you've got to know it. So now then you're ready to actually know it. Being put in charge is not the same as being a leader. I thought that was really big. So just because you're in charge doesn't mean you're a leader. The phase 3, I know what I don't know. I am the very big queen, especially when I was teaching, about saying I don't know. I'm okay to say I don't know. Those 3 words are very hard to say for some people. I'm totally okay for saying I don't know, but guess what? I'm going to find out for you. And usually that was the next phrase that came out of my mouth was, well, you know what? I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find this out. So you're at this process, these phases of leadership. You're at that process of going, well, you know what? I don't know everything I need to know, but I'm willing to figure it out, which I think is huge.
Go to bed.
Phase 4 is I know and grow, and it starts to show. And he says, when you recognize your lack of skill and begin the daily discipline of personal growth, and exciting things start to happen. And I think that that's very true. That's a great phase to be at. It almost is like this turning point. That phase 4 is at that turning point. There was a quote, he said, the secret of success in life is for a man to be ready for his time when it comes. That you don't let that pass up, that you're ready whenever it comes for you to be that success and that leader. Phase 5, I simply go because of what I know. So when you're at phase 4, you can be pretty effective as a leader, he said, but then you have to think about every move you make. However, when you reach phase 5, your ability to lead becomes almost automatic. And I read that and I got really excited because I want to get to that point where it's almost automatic. That's super exciting. Anybody have thoughts? So I'm gonna say these again, and I want you to tell me what phase you think you're at. Okay. Phase 1 is I don't know what I don't know. I don't know a lot. I don't know nothing. Phase 2, I know that I need to know, so I don't know it, but I know that I need to learn about it. Phase 3 is I know what I don't know. So now you not only do you know that you need to learn about it, you're also recognizing the things that you don't know and how you're going to fix that probably. Phase 4, I know and grow, and it starts to show. And phase 5, I simply go because of what I know. I will tell you, I think I'm probably in between a couple of them. I think I'm in between 3 and 4 right now. Because I think that I'm recognizing what I don't know as a leader, and then I'm recognizing that lack of skill, and I have implemented my daily method of operation includes growing myself, growing as a leader, learning more, reading every day, listening to calls to improve myself. So I kind of feel like I'm stuck in between 3 and 4. You're at 2, Kara. You're at your know that you need to know. You know that you need to know.
I'd say, yeah, maybe between 2 and 3, like hovering between the two, somewhere in there. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think.
We froze up for a sec. There we are. Anybody else want to share what phase they feel like they're in?
I feel like I'm definitely between, like you said, I think 3 and 4. Like I know what I don't know. I'm very familiar with what I don't know, but I'm ready to learn it and figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And then he said, to become a leader, an excellent leader, not just a leader, an excellent leader, you need to work on it every single day. And I'm going to read this quote that he was talking about Joe Frazier, the boxer. And Joe Frazier said, he was talking about, he's a former heavyweight champion boxer, if you wanted to know that. He says, you can map out a fight plan or a life plan, but when the action starts, you're down to your reflexes. That's where your road work shows. If you cheated on that in the dark of the morning, you're getting found out now under the bright lights. And that was so big for me, because I think when I first started this Flexus thing, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And now it's catching up. In the light of the day, guess what? It's showing. And so now I'm going back and learning these things to create that a more solid foundation than I had before. I thought that, and in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, are you willing to develop and improve your skills and your leadership abilities to be the leader that you're supposed to be? And I think that that's a big calling. If you're willing to do that, that's huge. And some people aren't. They're just not. They're content. They're going to stay right where they're at. But I can tell you right now, I'm not staying where I'm at, because I'm just not. But I thought that was really great. And then he talked about Teddy Roosevelt. Yes, Teddy Roosevelt. And him as a president, and how he was very smart and had always been very smart, but he was very physically weak. And so he just started growing. He started working out and fishing and boxing and hiking and swimming and doing all of these things to improve himself. And eventually, once he became president, everybody knew him as like this cowboy president that did all these things and hunted and, went on all these safaris and was fearless physically and all of that kind of stuff. And I just thought that was I was very inspired. It kind of makes me want to know more about him, that I want to read more about him, because of some of the things they talked about, just that he was very determined to change the path of his life in terms of his physical abilities, which was really cool. That he said, he admitted that as a child he was nervous and timid, yet from reading of the people that I admired and knowing from my father, I had great admiration for men who were fearless and who could hold their own in the world. And I had a great desire to be like them. So it was I just thought that was great. I'm not much of a political person, but I thought that was really great. Anybody else have anything else? The very last part of it, the application part of the book, he says, one thing that separates great leaders from good leaders is the way they invest in those who follow them. Oh, yeah? Go ahead. Sorry.
I love the delay. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Just one thing that he said, and when you read it kind of triggered something with me, just what your reflexes do. What's your natural reaction to things? I think it's been really interesting to watch people's natural reaction during this back office stuff. Is their reaction to panic? Is it to throw in the towel? Is it to find a way? So I think just kind of taking inventory of watching my own personal reactions. When I hear somebody say this, what do I do? Do I just want to fix it, or I just want to tell them, would you use your head and think? Or do I see it as a training opportunity or just a frustrating moment? What's my gut reaction when situations happen? So I think that's a really good way to kind of gauge your leadership as well.
That's good. And I was, that now that you say that, I was thinking about that. What was my reaction to the back office hullabaloo? And quite honestly, I had no reaction. I mean, I was frustrated, but I kind of sat back and I thought, I'm going to ride the wave and I'm going to let things fix themselves instead of be reactive. Because I'm not a reactive. I can be reactive, but I think with that, I just sat back and I decided it's not worth it for me to get into this, because I know we all sat there and watched it and people were freaking the heck out. And I couldn't buy into it. Besides the fact that I don't deal with drama well, I just couldn't buy into that. That's really good, Megan. Okay, let me read this last one and then we'll be done. That way we can be done in an hour, because we're almost at an hour. Shocker. One thing that separates great leaders from good leaders is the way they invest in those who follow them. Just as you need a growth plan to improve, so do those who work for you. You can take groups of employees through books, bring in trainers, mentor people one-to-one, anything that works. Make providing opportunities for growth your responsibility. Yowza. That's huge. Okay, so your assignment for next week is, I'll put it on our little group page, but ask people that are of influence in your life or that you feel like are great leaders to assess your leadership abilities and what they feel like you have. And there was like those 4, and I'll type those out. And what was my other assignment? I wrote it down and I forgot. Let me go back. The appendix, the little rating yourself as at the end of the book, there's an appendix that you go through and rate yourself. So I want you to ask, the first one is ask other people about your leadership abilities. And then the second one is to go through that appendix, and I'll post that on our page. Does that sound good? Okay. Don't forget, those of you that are live, be sure to message me. Those of you that are watching this recorded, message me sometime this week and let me know if you would like to facilitate. I've got questions already, so it's not like you have to go in blind and figure this out on your own. We're just sort of talking and chatting. So I would love for other people to lead and facilitate if you would like. Anybody have anything else? All right. All right. I will post those things. You guys have a great week. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Night. See y'all later.